This episode of Kapow is brought to you by Joey Statham at Copperleaf Properties. Joey is a lifetime multi-million-dollar producer. If you want an agent you can really trust, one that will really listen to you, you need an agent that knows how to effectively market and sell your home, give Joey Statham a call at 256-494-7544. That again, 256-494-7544. Joey Statham at Copperleaf Properties. Also brought to you today by Mac Butler and Butler Electric. If you're looking for a competent, reliable, and a very professional outfit to handle your electrical services and needs, you need to give Butler Electrical Contractors a call today at 256-442-4255. Again, Butler Electrical Contractors. Hey guys, welcome to Kapow. I'm your man Jeff Underwood, and always doing what he does. Doesn't matter who's in the house, he's always on his phone. Man, you got Mike Durant here.
You got Mike Durant. Actually, Tommy got Mike Durant in here.
That's true. That's true.
Hey,
what's going on, Dub?
Man, this is very excited. This is we normally do everything in the mornings, but when Mike Durant says, "Hey, I can be there at 1:30," you change your schedule. Sir, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us.
It's my pleasure, and I would have been here anytime you wanted me.
Well, I know the
not during lunchtime though.
Well, not when Pruitt's is right down the road. No.
What are you gonna do? Got to.
Sorry, free plug there.
You just won Etowah County right there by plugging Pruitt's. You're good. You just won. So.
It was pretty special.
Well, for those who don't know you, who are people who just been born, kind of introduce yourself and kind of your platform and what you're running for.
Sure. Okay, so who am I? I entered the military when I was 18, and I wanted to fly helicopters. I was blessed I got the opportunity to do so, which was my first exposure to Alabama, Fort Rucker,
yeah.
And then Wiregrass is where flight school is for the Army. And I did pretty well. I flew Blackhawks right out of school. They were brand new at the time, and I tell people it was like flying the Starship Enterprise. I mean, it was amazing. It really was. I still remember the first time I sat in it. I thought, this is incredible. I was 21, and went to Korea, flew medevac, then ended up coming back to Fort Campbell, found about the Special Operations Unit that sounded pretty interesting, and I applied. And that's another whole set of training. It takes about a year. You got to go through all of that. And that's a busy place. In fact, I don't know, if your listeners paid attention to what just went down in Syria, but another terrorist got taken out. Again, that's that same unit. They lost an aircraft that the pictures of it just came out on the news this morning. But, it's a hazardous business, and good news was nobody got injured on our side.
Amen.
But cost us an aircraft, and mission accomplished. So anyway, that's the unit that I went to, and it's involved in pretty much everything. I mean, it's the point of the spear, literally, for most things that go on involving the military, certainly things that involve helicopters. And it lived up to everything I hoped it would be. I mean, it was just professional people. The people that we support, we call them the customers, just the most elite forces, it was like a Tom Clancy book. It really was. And I spent, I got there in 88 and stayed there till 2001, 13 years. And in the middle of that, Somalia happens, which is probably where most people would recognize my name. Most folks are familiar with Black Hawk Down. That was me. I was shot down, captured, spent 11 days in captivity. And I tell people it's the most probably recognized thing that happened in my career, but there were a lot of other great things that happened in my career. And it's not that, what happened on that mission was necessarily bad, but it didn't turn out the way we wanted it to turn out. We lost 19 great Americans, 74 wounded. I mean, it was a big fight. But I was also involved in Desert Storm, which went really well. I was involved in Just Cause, which was the takedown of Panama, which went really well. I was involved in catching the Iranians mining the Persian Gulf, trying to take out oil tankers, which went really well. So, there were a lot of success stories, but it's the sort of the curse of that world is the things that don't go so well get all the attention. Sure. It's and it is what it is. But I'm proud to have served.
Sure. Proud
to be able to say I supported and worked with those amazing people, and they do it like I just said about Syria. They continue to do it and have been doing it for really decades. And then came time to retire. I stayed in the unit after Somalia. I stayed 8 more years, and at that point I'm 40 years old. I've been in the military 22 years, and I thought, I want to get out when I'm still young enough to have a full second career. And the Army was building a new helicopter called the Comanche. Those sort of programs are run here in Alabama, in Huntsville. And I came down to Huntsville, visited, seemed like, looks like a great place to live, and, great values, good place to raise a family, cost of living is good, just everything we all know about Alabama really appealed to me and my wife. So we moved, and we've been here ever since. Now, in the midst of all that, I had another turning point in 2008 where I'd gotten a little dissatisfied with the company I was working for. We were a small, which I really liked, because that's very similar to a special ops unit. You have a lot of autonomy,
Sure.
a lot of responsibility. Every day is different. That's what appeals to me. I don't like a routine. And we were bought by a $4 billion company, and it's just night and day. And I didn't like it. It was all focused on profits. And I said, look, I can do this better myself. I'd been retired for 7 years. I had enough experience. I didn't know what I didn't know, but I'm a believer in the best way to learn is jump in with both feet, know enough to just, not completely fail. And that's how you learn. And, I started my own company in 2008. And here we are 14 years later. It was our 14th anniversary this February, and just transferred ownership to the employees.
Amazing.
And highly successful company, over 500 people, 14 locations around the world, and just really proud of that too. And it was something I was going to do all along, but it has really set me up now for what I wasn't expecting, which is the third life, where I've decided to enter the race for U.S. Senate. I just think what's at stake is too significant to not say, send me. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I heard a little story where you were a senior in high school and you thought, I want to do something. I know I want to fly, right? Is that kind of...
Yeah, I was a little younger than that. I think it was about 14. Wow. And I went on a helicopter flight. And I got bitten by the helicopter bug. Not everyone gets to fly on one, but most people remember the first time they flew on a helicopter. It's just a special experience, and I thought I could do this as a job.
You guys are different, though.
Well, yeah, a little bit. You forget about the fact that it's 10,000 parts that are all trying to fight each other. It's because they are complicated machines.
Yeah.
And but U.S. military all aircraft today are well designed, and they're very well maintained, and that's the thing about U.S. aviation and our allies as well. But it makes it so hard for anyone else to try to do what we do because it is such a highly disciplined industry, and that's why people should feel safe when they go fly commercially. I mean, think about how many flights there are every day. And how many real mishaps? I mean, there haven't been one in years. And that's amazing. And that's all from discipline, process, all those things that, it took us over 100 years to get here when you think about the first flight.
Sure.
But, I mean, it's just amazing. I mean,
Kitty Hawk to Black Hawk down.
Yeah. And, I sit in Atlanta delayed like everyone else every now and then, right? Because it happens, whether it's weather or maintenance. And I hear people complaining, and I think, if you only knew what it took to make all this work, and it works as well as it does, you'd be just, a little happier than you are. And
if you're running late, you're on the plane, do you ever make your way up front? Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Let me take over for a few minutes. Let's get on the right path.
That's exactly right.
No question. So a lot of people say that, time heals all wounds, but the scars are still there. Talk to us a little bit about the movie, because everyone wants to talk about it.
Sure.
You're probably tired of talking about it, but doing the movie or seeing the movie, even now, that has to be hard.
There's times when I do get emotional, actually.
Yeah.
I tell people I'm as healed as I'm ever going to be.
Yeah.
I'd say I'm 99.9%. And it kind of hits me more when I'm tired. If you talk to me about sort of the touchy things when I'm tired, I get a little choked up. But, I have talked about it a lot, and I think that's part of the healing process. I've said from the very beginning, I think there's 4 elements to my situation. It wouldn't apply to everyone, but it's a physical journey, it's a psychological journey, it's a professional journey, because a lot of us who get injured or wounded in the military potentially have to do something different depending on how bad you're injured, and then it's a spiritual journey, all 4 of those things. And I feel like I'm very fortunate in that all of those things moved in a positive direction for me. And they're all interrelated. You can't just focus on one and forget about the others.
Well, that's certainly a big part of your life. But Jeff and I were talking. We want people to. You're way more than that. That's one moment in time.
Right.
Obviously, you're a fertile son of a gun. Let's talk about your family.
6 children, right?
6 children.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now
It's
it's
like a
a
family
blended
a little bit.
family, but
Yeah.
but
Doesn't matter.
yeah,
That's right.
it was a busy household. My wife gets all the credit. I was off paying for it, and she was managing it all.
Did I read that she's also a pilot?
She is. She is a pilot, a helicopter pilot, and she outranks me
I'm sure she'll let you know.
two
that,
ways.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So no, and
fantastic.
she went to airborne school. If you met her, you would never believe that, because she doesn't come across that way. But
Yeah.
she was a maintenance test pilot actually, and went to airborne school and got out as a major. To be a mom. It's hard to
Major to mom. She got
major to
promoted.
mom. There you go. There's
She
a
got
movie
promoted.
title.
That's
Major to mom.
Or a sitcom. If there's
Ooh, it could be. So obviously you've thrown your hat in and you decided you've seen enough, and you want to bring some integrity and some honor to the position of Senate.
100%. I think it is. Well, I don't think it is what the founding fathers envisioned. They did not envision people going to Washington D.C. and staying there for eternity. They saw citizens with real life experience and an understanding of what's important to the people of their state, going and serving, getting something done, and then coming back. And that's what I want to do, and bring that experience I have from both being in the military and owning a business. I mean, it's two very powerful experiences that can help me understand better what is right for Alabama and for the country. And people that have done nothing but politics, they might think they understand it, but if you haven't signed the front of a check, if you haven't managed cash flow, if you haven't hired and fired and trained people and all of those things, you don't get it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues. I love them. I was just telling Jerry, I said this website's phenomenal. So whoever put that together for you, kudos. It's very easy to navigate. And if you click on there, if you're watching or if you're listening, you click on the issues, it tells you all the stances that Mike Durant has. And one that's near and dear to our heart, obviously we're Christians, is your stance on being pro-life.
Absolutely.
And so talk a little bit about that. That's huge in the state of Alabama right now.
It is, and I'm a Christian as well, and I'm absolutely pro-life. I'd have to say I always have been, but I think if you have a family, and now I also have 4 grandchildren, you think about the fact that when that child is born, if you decided to, and I hate to even use the word, terminate that pregnancy 3 months before that. I mean, I can't even comprehend why people think that's okay. It's the easiest position in the world to defend. I mean, because it is. What's difficult for me is to see the other side. I don't see how the other side views that as the right position. There's no argument that makes me understand that. So, it's very important to me, and absolutely pro-life.
I think that's one thing that we need in the Capitol and DC is someone that is strong, stern,
Right.
And when you have an issue, when you have a stance on an issue, by God, nobody's going to move me. I'm
Right.
immovable
Right.
on that.
Absolutely.
And obviously, your career in the military, building a business of 500-600 employees, you've got to take stands and be movable in that, and say I'm not changing or wavering. And with the flip flopping and the trash that we see in D.C., Montgomery, even in the State House, we call a couple of people we know wishy-washy, and you see that constantly. So I think it's important to have somebody in D.C. that says, this is my stance,
Right.
and I'm sticking to it.
Absolutely.
Right? So.
And I'm not going up there for life. I'm not going up there to get reelected. I'm going up there to do the right thing. And that's where I think so many politicians get off track. They start thinking about the next election. They start thinking about what position do I have to take that's going to get me elected. I don't care. I mean, I know what I believe in, and that's what I believe in, and I'm going to stick to that.
Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes people go up there and get intimidated. Other than your wife and grandchildren, who's going to intimidate you?
Well, I mean, I'm still human. I can be intimidated, but I will. I think I'll withstand most of it. I'm not going to suggest that it can't be done. But
See, I've got a couple questions. If you want to pop up, we got people watching and questions. If you just want to pick one or two. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Sorry.
We appreciate it.
You caught me drinking my coffee. You caught me slipping a little bit.
It happens.
It's all right.
Try out Andy Johnson. You see Andy's question?
Amy Johnson. There it is. Get it.
Or Andy.
Or Andy. Either way. Mike Durant will have my vote. I do have a question. How do you feel about a lottery? I'm also a veteran. God bless. Well, he's going to Washington. He will not have a say-so in the lottery here in the state of Alabama. I'll speak to that, but I mean,
Yeah, I'm happy to answer either way.
Yeah.
I don't believe in gambling. I think it's a slippery slope. I don't gamble.
Right.
I know a lot of people do. I guess that's a personal choice, but I feel like, although I've always said this, it briefs well when you're trying to sell an idea.
Sure.
You focus on the positive and you never focus on the negative impacts.
Sure.
But there are negative impacts, and I'm not an advocate.
Yeah. Well, that's a good answer. I mean, if you want to play, I guess you could play driving back or flying.
Sure, yeah.
If you stop into
Absolutely.
Georgia
Yeah.
at the airport, I guess you
Yeah.
could.
Text me.
There's a couple things that my dad was in Vietnam. He was attached to the 101st Airborne. I think it was 76 Communications. Anyway, he said, I'm a huge fan of Mike Durant. I think he would be great for Washington because I know in order to do what he has done, he's had to be a man of determination, a man of grit, but also to do what you're doing, flying and keeping people safe, and you got to be a man of integrity. And people of integrity don't do what you do. If you do, you only do it for a short time, not for 22 years.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not conceivable for someone with integrity to be surrounded by people without for a long period of time, I think is the point there. But I agree. I mean, I had a conversation earlier about this. When I started my company, what I said we were trying to do is take the culture from that very special unit I talked about and bring it into the business world. And the only way you can do that is to really live your values. You can't just write them down,
Right.
Put them on the wall, and then nobody knows what they are. I mean, and I feel like we've done a really good job with that. And our number one value is and always has been integrity. And I stand by it. And it is, I learned a long time ago, it's easy to do when things are going well. When it gets hard is when you're tested, right? Sure. It's like a lot of other things in life. But I can look back at very difficult decisions that we made from a business perspective and proud to say we always stuck to our guns and we made the right decision. And I believe in the end, you might lose the war, or you might lose the battle, but you're going to win the war. And believe that very strongly.
No question. So some of the issues that's going on right now, kind of talk about some of the things you don't like that's going on in our country that you can actually go and solve a problem.
So the first part's pretty easy.
Yeah.
The second part is the difficult one.
Sure.
And I think everybody realizes that, there are so many problems. I mean, certainly if you're a Christian conservative, which obviously I am and I believe is right, and I believe is what has got us as a country to where we are today. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely under attack. That is not propaganda. It is absolutely under attack. Is it deep state? Is it big tech? It's a combination of everything, but really it's an undermining of our values and a lack of faith, I think, across the board, as I think you would certainly appreciate and realize. And that's the root cause, I think. But in terms of what the actual specific things are, number one, because it is achievable, I think, is to get control of the southern border. We have to do that.
Amen.
It's a multi-faceted threat. People always go straight to the illegal aliens as really the effect, but the effect is much greater than that. You've got. I was reading an article about, for the first time since we started counting, there were over 100,000 cases of deaths from overdose from drugs in this country in 1 year.
Wow.
And most of that was fentanyl.
Yeah.
And I just saw an article this morning that said the majority of the fentanyl is coming through the southern border. So, it's contributing to the drug problem. You'd have to be living in a cave and as naive as anyone has ever met to not think there are terrorists coming through the southern border. I mean,
Sure.
if you're a state actor or a terrorist organization, and you can get access to the United States by sending people through Mexico, you're going to do it. And unfortunately, the current administration is allowing that to happen and then almost rewarding these people. I mean, they're certainly being transported across the country. It's almost like a processing station the way it's being done. And we want immigration, but we want legal immigration.
Right.
People who we know who they are. We can get them into the workforce legally. Ultimately, they can pay taxes. They can be a part of our society. Mm-hmm. That's where America started. So, we're for immigration. We're just not for illegal immigration.
How is that legal? How is our United States government allowing that to happen and them just funnel in people, terrorists, in general just come in any way they want to?
Well, I don't know. I can't understand. I mean, part of it is you got people like Biden putting people in charge of Border Patrol. That, I mean, the people in the Border Patrol have no respect for, realize that they don't care about the mission. All they care about is appeasing, this very liberal regime that we have in place right now, instead of doing the mission of the Border Patrol, which is to secure the border.
Right.
I mean, I can't explain it. I really cannot. I don't understand how they are so desperate to appease their voter base that they're willing to compromise everything. I mean, everything.
Do you think that has to do with, you alluded to
Voters.
voter base? Is that what you think?
Well, it has to be. And it's certainly appealing to the voter base. Is it trying to attract new voters? Probably. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about some fairly significant numbers. Mm-hmm. It'd be interesting to know, and I haven't read anything about this, but to see, where are they going? Are they going to places that are swing states or swing cities where, another 5,000 votes could make a difference? Sure. That would be an interesting thing to look into, and I don't know. I'm sure someone has.
I think there's no question that this is about rigging elections.
Yeah.
There's no integrity in it, and they're not even hiding.
Right.
It's out in your face. You can't stop it.
Yep.
That seems to be. You got any more of those helicopters?
Actually, well, we need some crowd funding here, or whatever it's called, but because they are for sale, but they're a little pricey. So we need some help.
Talk about term limits. That's something that I think a stance that you're running on, and I think it's very important that people need to hear about.
Well, everybody wants it. Yeah. Except the people that occupy the position.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So I think the only way it's ever going to fly is that if we submit some legislation that sets term limits, but it doesn't apply if you're already in office. Basically, grandfathered in. That is the only way that's ever going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
If we tried to, because they own the votes, right? So why for those of them that are true politicians, they would never vote for something that would cause them to lose their position. So that's the only way. And I honestly don't know if that's been tried. I know a lot of people talk about it, but to me, that's the only way to move the ball down the field in that particular lane. I think it's possible. I think you just got to get enough people to support it and write it the right way, and I think it can be done. But it is, I would argue, one of the root cause factors about why what's going on is going on.
Well, how does we the people, gain trust back in these elections? There's no trust with government mandates. Essential businesses, yes, I can open mine. You can't open yours. Only the big companies can open. Yes, you got to wear a mask. Yes, you can't leave the country if you're vaccinated. Those kind of things. What are your thoughts?
Well, I know it's frustrating. I know it's demoralizing. I know people are losing trust and faith in the government, and that's why people like me are stepping up. We got to restore that. We got to get people back to where they think there actually are people that do care about them, that represent them, and want to do what's right for the country. I know there are a lot of veterans that are stepping up in this next cycle because we're all just tired of this. Yeah, and I think for the most part, I mean, not every veteran's perfect. No humans are perfect, right? But I think most of us are in it for the right reasons. We're going to try to make a difference, and we're going to try to go up there and restore the faith of the American people in the system, in the government, and turn this thing around.
One more question from the.
Let me see.
Got a lot of questions here we're getting to, and again, we appreciate your time,
no
even
problem.
stopping to be with us. And
Sure.
Got to screen some of these. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts when it comes to big tech censorship. I mean, we do a little video show that this show, probably your show, will get about 20, 30,000 views here in this little area. We do local politics, 2 or 3, 4,000 views. Tell us about big tech censorship. A lot of throttling different conservative voices. Dan Bongino, you were on his show not long ago. You were on Jacko's show, and there you can't tell me there's no way that Jacko only has 1.5 million followers. There's so many more people, and that's on YouTube. So it's a big issue. It's something that's happening, and it's even happening to small mom and pops that are just trying to get their voice heard. So talk a little bit about big tech censorship.
Well, it's wrong. I mean, there shouldn't be some sort of central brain trust that's controlling what people have access to. I mean, that's just fundamentally wrong. I think it's a hard problem to fix. I think the most optimistic view you could have is that we will evolve and new platforms will emerge, which they're already doing, and people will shift to those. Now, whether or not that solves the problem is very difficult to say, but I certainly agree that what's happening with big tech is wrong. And maybe I guess it's sort of a free enterprise concept will drive new solutions that people will migrate to, which they should do.
You got a lot of local legislation as far as the state legislation questions that are going, but and I'll ask the question again, that could something come up for the whole United States, but marijuana as medical marijuana.
So, that one I hadn't really thought too much about. I know there are issues with legalization of marijuana. I know many states have adopted it. And again, it's one of those things that briefs well. You think you give people more freedom, they can make their own decisions. But there are second and third order effects of those things that don't emerge right away. I know, for example, in Colorado, the illegal drug trade is as alive and well as it ever has been because there's too much taxes on the legal marijuana. So it didn't really solve anything. There's more people consuming the product. And, like, for example, I remember reading a story about a traffic accident. I think it happened in Auburn, didn't it? There was some evidence that the driver was under the influence of marijuana, but there's no criteria like there is with alcohol where,
this is what is safe.
Blood alcohol level, correct. Right. So it's very subjective. How do you decide whose liability? So, it's just, those are examples of all these second, third order effects of these decisions. I would just advocate caution and not, make sure we really understand the implications of these decisions at the state level before we push forward.
Sure. I appreciate you answering that question, and that's something that a couple people had asked. Two things in the last 10 minutes that we have with you. I know you got a busy day. You're touring the state.
Yes.
That's you're going everywhere. You're in Calhoun County. You're in Chilton, I think. I'm not really sure. Dothan, I think you a few weeks ago.
Been to Wiregrass, absolutely.
So talk a little bit about the Second Amendment. I know you're a hunter. You grew up as a hunter with your father. So talk a little bit about that, but not Second Amendment people. It's not just about hunting. It's about protecting
just
our
general
freedom.
rights.
So talk a little bit about that.
Well, it's pretty cut and dry. We have the right to bear arms, and I think certainly in a state like Alabama that is very popular. That view is very popular, and I support it. So that's just actually a pretty easy one.
Right. Any legislation for them, any legislation that comes up and they want to stifle the Second Amendment, try to do something to that, you would say
I would oppose that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was there an aviation question that was there? I thought, but I
saw
lost
one,
it.
but I can't get to it.
Some of those aviation questions get pretty tricky, so let me screen that one.
We'll send it to your team.
One person says this, and I know you have two books out. You're an author as well. You're kind of all over the place. The book, and I wrote it down. It was the first one's In the Company of Heroes.
Right.
That's your mission to Somalia there.
Well, I always tell people it's not a retelling of Black Hawk Down. It's really a continuation of the story.
Right.
Like in chapter 1 of my book is the end of the battle in Somalia. So it's more about my personal experience in Somalia, but then a lot of the other things that I was involved in my military career that got me to that point. It sort of goes back in time, and then it comes back to the present as it goes back and forth. I stole that from Tom Clancy, I think. I'm not sure. Right. So, and then the other one is called The Night Stalkers, and it was about, again, trying to tell the story of the unit. The unit is such a special place, and what's unique about it is not only is it involved in almost everything, but it's the same people. People stay there for decades and been on combat mission after combat mission, and just incredible dedication to the country.
One simple question, but it's a good question, and I think it's okay to ask is, do you consider yourself being very transparent? Am I a transparent guy? When asked, am I going to give you everything on the table?
I see myself that way. I don't know any other way to be, and it really comes from I went to survival school as part of my military training, and when they prepare you for survival school, the model was based on Vietnam, where we had people 7 years, 10 years, and what they taught us was you don't have to give information, but whatever you do give, it's got to be the truth, because if they come back around in a year and they ask you that same question and you give them a different answer, guess what?
Yeah.
It's going to be a bad day for you. So it's a very fundamental thing that they taught us, but it's, to me, I know it's not politician-like, but
Good.
it's consistent. It is, and which is good because I
Yes.
don't see myself as a politician.
Yes.
I'm getting into politics, but I'm not a politician.
I respect that.
And
So is it true that the title of your third book is going to be "Don't Fly and Text"? It's just I just read stuff off the web. I don't know.
I think I'm actually going to write a third book about the campaign because
I bet.
we have plenty of material, but I just got to find the time.
Have you found that politics is, well, you've seen that it's corrupt. As it started to, have you started getting those calls, and that we don't have to give in to that, but
Yeah.
are you getting those calls, those texts, those emails, hey, backdoor favors, those types of things?
Nothing.
Nothing yet?
No. And I'm proud to say
It's early yet.
but I'm proud to say that our business was a success without that.
Amen.
And
Lobbyists rule the world, though.
but a lot are not. But I can tell you with 100% clarity and certainty, everything we got as a business we earned.
That's
we
awesome.
won fair and square.
Heck yeah.
And that's, to me, the only way to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's wonderful. Anything that you want to tell the voters? We just had a live stream interrupt, but everything's still recording. It'll be up in about 10 minutes. Anything you want to tell the voters of Alabama and our area that you just really want to drive home and ask for their vote?
Well, when you think about who I am as a candidate, and if you recognize and understand the culture and the people and the voters here in Alabama, I'm it. Non-career politician, real world experience, serve the country once, willing to serve again, take on another mission,
Yeah.
straight shooter.
Literally. Yeah.
And I'm a pretty good shot, actually.
I had no doubt.
But, and I am committed to remaining this way. I think, maybe a lot of people go in with the hopes and aspirations that I have today. I don't know what could possibly knock me off track, but I swear I will fight to the end and not get knocked off this track.
So how can people reach out and learn more about you? How can they donate to your campaign? How can they get signs? Blah, blah, blah.
So the website is mikedurant.com, and that's MikeDurant.com. And that's probably the best
Fantastic website.
single spot to go. If anybody has any trouble with it, they can email Mike at MikeDurant.com. We try to keep it simple, and we'll get back to you, via that mechanism. Also, there's there's Facebook, Twitter, and everything
All
else.
social media is at. I wrote it down at Mike Durant AL. So that's Facebook, that's Instagram, and Twitter. They can find you right there. It's at Mike Durant AL, and you can find him. And those are great, and everything will point you to his website. So I just appreciate you being on.
Oh, my God, yeah.
And stopping by and making time for little old fellas. Well, medium-sized fella like me and Jerry. So
See the disrespect I get.
But thank you so much, and we do pray for your campaign and wish you the best.
And your family in that as well. We understand how it's encompassing.
We're
your
all
whole
in.
life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
That's awesome. To step away from what you've been doing,
a little bit.
you got to be all in.
Yeah, no question.
Hey, stay close, stay clean. Thanks for joining us today. Love each other the way God has loved you, and I promise you, Mike Durant's job will be a whole lot easier when he goes.